Hey everybody, welcome to the Harris Show. This is my Fast Track to Wealth series. This is about people who are either on their way out of the rat race or outside of the rat race. And today we have a special guest. He is a monster, absolute monster in Kansas City for seller finance properties. He places capital for investment for investors with investment properties, particularly in the residential space. Your dad was an investor for 33 years, just crazy. Your mom was a realtor for 30 years, and he's one of the best when it comes to structure and seller finance properties. And he's extremely busy, so I'm very glad he is here to share his knowledge with you guys today. So, Luther, welcome.
Yes, sir. What's up, Mr. Harris? Thank you for the awesome intro.
Yeah. All right. For people meeting you the first time, who are you and what do you do?
Well, he was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. And I, kind of like you mentioned, was able to watch my parents get into real estate as a kid. So when I was 5, 6 years old, that's when my parents got started in real estate. And yeah, my dad as an investor in the early 90s, he was making moves, buying properties, doing his own renovations and management, leveraging the whole bit, right? And then he figured out creative financing really quickly. And then shortly after that, he got my mom involved and she became a realtor a year or two after he got into real estate. And so as a kid, growing up, going through adolescence, watching my parents move, I kind of knew in the back of my head that I was going to do real estate at some point in the future. I just wasn't sure how that was going to look, right? And I remember going to properties with my dad as a kid. And then as a teenager, my mom and I would help take care of some of my dad's properties. We would cut the grass. Every now and then, we would help him to do a clean out. We might help paint and just do general stuff. So that's kind of how I learned. But besides the real estate, like I'm a former athlete, so that was my main thing growing up. I was consumed with sports, track and field, basketball, martial arts. Those were the main ones. And so that helped get me to college. So I ended up going to Wichita State on a track and field scholarship, and I hit the ground running as far as knowing what path I was going to take. So I got into the business program there, studied entrepreneurship and real estate. And then I graduated in 2008, and that was when I did my first real estate deal right before I graduated college. So that's kind of some of the backstory in a nutshell, I guess you could say.
Here we go. All right. So before things began to like change for you, what does your life look like? Like,
Man, that's a great question. So I've been knowing that I wanted to do real estate since I was a teenager.
uh,
And there have been multiple shifts that I've made throughout my career, throughout my life, right? And one of the biggest ones early on, I would say, because as I mentioned earlier, I did my first real estate deal as a senior in college, and that was back in 2008. And if you recall, that was when the global financial crisis was happening.
yeah.
And I remember applying for almost 100 different jobs the summer that I graduated from college. And as much as I wanted to hit the ground running doing real estate at that point, I had a very difficult time figuring out how I could get in and make a career out of it. So
Mm,
I ended up just doing different jobs. And then I did end up buying my primary residence in
nice.
2009.
Okay.
So that got me in. That's a really good way for, on a side note, that's a
Mhm.
really good way for people to get in because, for investors, right? It could be kind of tricky. It could be really challenging at times. But for an owner occupant,
Mhm.
if they want to buy their primary residence, that very well may be one of the easiest, cheapest ways to get into real estate.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's yes. So I did that in 2009,
Mhm.
lived in the house for about a year and a half, and then I made it an investment property. And of course,
Mhm.
we did seller financing on it.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that was, you know, uh, my first actual like property purchase and then investment property from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and then from there, like I just was working, trying to, figure my life out. And I ended up trying wholesaling for
Mhm.
about 2, 3 years.
The no
And I
money
was,
part of
and
real
I was
estate.
very, man, I know this conversation could go a few different directions, but I tried wholesaling for about 2, 3 years.
Mhm.
It was one of my best friends growing up who reached out to me in
Mhm.
2011. I was waiting tables, bro.
Oh, wow.
And my buddy reached out. Yeah, he reached out and said, "Hey, I'm interested in real estate. I want to learn from you.
Mhm.
Maybe we could set up an appointment with your pops and we can maybe pick his brain and let's see if we can make something happen." And we didn't have any money to really invest at that time. And
Mhm.
so, but we were trying to figure it out. So we ended up doing a couple, maybe 2 or 3 different marketing campaigns to find motivated sellers.
Mhm.
And it took us about 6 months to find our first deal. And it ironically was a deal that my buddy purchased subject to the existing financing. So so that was interesting, I thought. We
Yeah.
didn't keep it though. That was one we ended up immediately selling it to another investor,
For cash
and we
or
made a quick no, we sold it to them subject to.
oh, okay, okay,
So we
okay.
bought it so we bought it, my buddy actually technically bought it, I just kinda helped him out. It was his company, his LLC bought it and took over the mortgage payments and then immediately sold it to another investor. So
Mhm.
that investor took over the seller's mortgage payments and picked up, right where we left off. Or technically, we didn't hold it at all, maybe a week or two
Mhm.
before we sold it to that investor. Which,
Nice.
looking back, I do not recommend that. You know, I have mixed feelings about wholesaling,
Mhm.
but that's a whole other story. But yeah, so that's kind of when I got serious about real estate. When my buddy approached me in 2011, that was a
Oh,
huge turning point.
wow. From
Mhm.
what you thought it was until now, has it been different?
It did not fall into line with how I thought things were going
Mm,
or would go, and it was not ideal.
mm.
I had different plans.
Oh,
So my thought early on, getting into real estate investing, right? I always wanted to do buy and hold real estate. And my dad had been doing creative finance transactions since the early 90s.
wow,
So as you could imagine, I watched my dad from 1990 through 2009, basically,
wow,
do dozens and dozens of creative real estate transactions.
wow.
So I thought that was how I was going to do it too. My whole plan, right? Here was my investing plan. I was going to strictly buy properties on seller financing or through what's called subject to or existing financing. And then I would immediately do contract for deed or seller financing from there.
So for those that
That was
don't
my
know,
plan.
contract for deed, what is that?
Yeah,
For those that don't know, I know what it is, but for people that don't know too.
sure. Yeah, so a contract for deed is one way to do a seller finance transaction. It's a form of an installment agreement, okay? And with the name contract for deed, it kind of tells you what it is. There's a contract or an agreement between the seller and the buyer. The seller's carrying the paper.
Mm,
So that seller is going to have a purchase price, a down payment, usually an interest rate, and then how long they're going to go. Are they going to go 10, 20, or 30 years? And hence the name contract for deed. The buyers do not get the deed until they fulfill the contract.
right.
However, if the seller decides at some point during that period, whether it's 10, 20, or 30 years,
Mhm,
that they want to go ahead and deed the property over to the buyers, they can. But the buyers don't have the deed. They have what's considered an ownership interest. When I think of contract for deed, I think of an agreement for sale or a land contract. And those are forms of seller financing,
mhm.
and they all are installment agreements. Okay.
Done.
So for those that are listening, there's plenty of articles online and YouTube videos out there. Heck, I've done some as well that talk about seller financing and the different types.
So
Okay.
what do you say for people that feel like they have to have a ton of money to do what you do? So what is the
Yeah.
biggest financial
Yeah.
risk that you took in order to get started?
Okay. So there were two questions there. I'll
Yeah.
answer the second one first. What was
Good.
the biggest financial risk for me? It
Mhm.
was deciding to partner with somebody.
Oof. And
I
partners.
yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm a proponent, or I guess you could say advocate, of partnerships.
Good. Good.
And those are tough. It could be very challenging. Where I have seen the best success, I had a business partner or I had a running mate of some type with me.
Mm,
Now on the flip side, right, where I've had the biggest issues and challenges is with partnerships or
mm.
running mates. Okay.
That's what I was gonna ask
So
next.
hopefully that answers, yeah. So hopefully that answers the second question. But the first question is for those who believe that they need a large amount of capital to do real estate investing. Well, it'll certainly help. I don't necessarily want to say that it'll make things easier, because it won't if
Mhm,
the investor doesn't have the right mindset or a good strategy, or if they don't handle the operations very well.
mm,
Okay. So they could have a boatload of money and want to do real estate. And I've seen that time and time again. I'm a former property manager. I didn't mention that on the intro.
right,
I've managed hundreds of properties for out of state investors. So I saw it time and time again where investors halfway across the country, they're sitting on bread. They got half a mil, couple mil, a few mil, but they're trying to invest in the inner city of Kansas City, and they don't have a point man or a point woman on the ground. That is a recipe for disaster. I saw
yes.
it so many times. That's how I was able to get jobs,
Mm,
because the investors, they hired a real estate broker, they hired various contractors. They may have went through one or two property managers before I met them, and I was able to get in simply by doing what I said I was going to do, like going to the property to get pictures. I was able to win multiple contracts and, connect with multiple investors and get a ton of business by
mhm.
just giving them a simple update and sending them pictures of the property along with comps.
Wow.
And they loved it. So,
Wow.
okay, so if you don't need a whole lot of money to get started, okay, but if you do, it'll definitely help. But there's so much more to it besides that. Okay, so for those that may not have much money and they want to get into real estate, you know, it really depends on their goals and what they're looking to do. Okay, because when I think of true real estate investing, there's a lot of ways to make money in real estate,
Yeah.
right? But when I think of true real estate investing, to me, like you're going to buy the property and that sucker is yours, and maybe you rehab it and resell it, or maybe you plan to hold it for 2 to 5 years or longer. To me, like that is a true real estate investment. If you're going to do that, you're going to want to work with somebody that has some money, right? If you're wanting to if you're wanting to wholesale, like I said before, there's a lot of ways to make money. I would venture to say, right, because I've made a lot of money as a property manager. I made quite a bit of money helping investors with renovation projects. As a real estate agent, I made a boatload of money throughout my career. Okay, so those are outside of what I consider true real estate investments,
Right.
right? So it depends on the individual, what they're looking to do. Do they want to be in and out doing short term transactions, wholesale, fix and flip? Or do they really want to do buy and hold and create more ongoing revenue or cash flow, if that makes sense? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, at this point, like if somebody approaches me and they want to do real estate and they don't have the money, I usually tell them to go find the money, or hey, talk to my lender, or hey, like, are you serious about this? Right? Because, they can go get licensed and sell real estate like I did, right? They could do wholesale. With
Mhm.
wholesaling, they could put together a marketing campaign for very little
Yeah.
and they could find opportunities that way. So it really depends on the individual, their risk tolerance, okay, and then long term what they're looking to do
Mhm.
because yeah, look, I tried it, bro. Like this I tried it and I was told you didn't need any money, right? My dad told me,
Yeah.
my own dad told me that, bro.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
and I tried it for almost 10 years. I tried it
Wow.
for almost 10 years with little to no money. We did some deals, right? But what really helped push me over, another turning point, right? Early on, you asked about shifts, right? Or what pushed me over the edge, or
Mhm.
how I transitioned. A big shift for me was in 2018 and 2019. I got really fed up, and that's when I started looking for capital, and that's when I started reaching out to investors who wanted to partner up. And I proposed, I said, "Hey, y'all put up the money, okay? Sign for the loans if need be." At that time, my credit was pretty good. So if I needed to sign for a loan, and then basically I'll take care of the rest. I'll bring the deals, I'll oversee the renovations, and I'll manage the properties.
So for
You
anybody
cool?
that didn't catch that, he didn't necessarily have the money, but you had the value. You were going to do the renovations, you were going to manage it, you were going to have do other skills that was also equitable. That also was like money grabbers as well. You can't just get in, ask for the money, and not do anything on your side. So it's very important that you had those skills. So property management, for people that don't know investors, we all know property management is a thankless job. So the fact that you got in that way is crazy. I couldn't do it, but there are investors that we know, Ken McElroy, Rich Dad's Was that his tax
Mhm.
person or no, that wasn't his tax person. That was one of his investor guys. He started kind of the way
Mhm.
that you did. So um I just wanted to point that out that it's important to also bring something else to the table if you don't have the money. So yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge. By the way, Kenny McElroy, I consider him low key one of my like silent mentors.
Yeah.
I
He was
like his
good.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I subscribe to his stuff.
Yeah. So it obviously hasn't just gone all sunshine and rainbows because people ask me this too. Your biggest setback doing this at the beginning, like what was the one thing you were like, dang, well, I should just stop. I shouldn't keep going because most people would have stopped. What was that point for you? Would you say when you were had a huge
Mm.
setback, like you lost a ton of money, you were like, I don't know if I want to keep going.
Well, a big one was back in 2018. I was doing property management then, and then I was also selling real estate. And I parted ways with my business partner. Okay, so
Mm.
he owned the property management company
Oh,
and I helped run it. So I was the broker for that property management company. So for those that don't know, in the state of Missouri, if you want to legally manage properties third party for an investor, okay, you don't own it, right? If you want a third party managed for another investor, you need to have a broker affiliated with that property management company. So that was my role. So my business partner and I, between 2016 and 2018, were running the property management company. Some things came up. We didn't see eye to eye. I decided to leave. I was like, hey, look, if we can't work this out, I'm out of here, right? And that was a huge thing for me because around that same time, I was having some challenges with my broker. So I had my licenses with a brokerage here in Kansas City.
dang.
So there was a falling out with my business partner. There was a falling out with my managing broker. And between like 2018 and 2020, I moved 4 times. I think I moved 3 or 4 times. So
Mm,
there was problems at home too, on top of that.
right. Real life.
So, man, yeah. So it was crazy. Uh, I moved in with my parents for a little bit. I moved in with my auntie for a very short period of time. So I switched companies, right, for my sales licenses to sell real estate. I ended up moving into one of my new broker's investment properties for about 2 months. He let me stay
Mhm.
there for free.
Dang.
And then from there, I finally moved into a solid place. And that's where I'm living now. And I've been here for 6 years this month.
Oh,
So 2018, when all that was happening, right? I left the property management company. I left the real estate brokerage. Okay. That's when I actually started to look for private investors to do real estate. So I used that passion, I used that anger as fuel. I said, all right, well, this is as good a time as ever for me to take things to the next level.
mm,
So I updated my resume and I put together a one-page thing, basically one page on Bigger Pockets, and I posted it on Bigger Pockets.
mm,
And I uploaded my resume along with that one-page post saying, "Hey, here's my experience. Here's where we've seen success with Kansas City real estate. Here's where I see some opportunities going forward. I'll run the show. I can be the operator. but I want in on these deals. I'm looking for partners. You put up the money, and I started advertising on Bigger Pockets, and a few people reached out. One of them wanted multifamily. Okay, I have challenges with multifamily, just like I have challenges. Maybe not just like I have challenges with multifamily. I also have challenges with wholesaling, and so the individual that reached out, it was a lady. She was out of state. She's an attorney, very very sharp woman. She was willing to rock with me, but she didn't want to do single family home investments. She had her heart set on multifamily. I said, I respectfully decline. However, I said it, right? But there was another individual. There were two other individuals that reached out. Excuse me. I can't remember what the second one said. I could probably look it up on Bigger Pockets. But the third one, he was on board. He was cool. He was cool with single family homes. He was cool partnering. He was cool putting up the money. He was cool with me running the show. And what helped, okay, so this is something that investors and business owners, I think, should keep in mind. That business partner, right, the third one who said, okay, cool, Luther, let's roll. He lives in Canada.
Yeah.
To me, that was amazing. To me, that's great because, again, partnerships are challenging.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're not on the same page or if you don't have any money and both of you are trying to do the same role, both of you trying to wear the same hats, it's not going to work.
Right.
So the fact that he was able to put up the money and couldn't get in the way, holy smokes, that's a game changer. For the business owners, for the investors, that's a bar right there. If you find somebody that's willing to rock with you, they're going to, and they're willing to stay in their lane, you have your role, and they put up the money and they leave you alone. That was the sauce right there. That was one of the biggest turning points in my real estate investing career.
Wow. What made
I
him
went from doing,
believe in you? What made that guy
I
believe
don't
in you? Was
know.
it your resume, or he just said, "Let's go"?
I think he checked me out. I'm sure he had his ways of vetting me. And okay, so we spoke on the phone multiple times. We did web chat multiple times. Okay, got to know each other a little bit, right? Came up with a game plan, right? It's basically my game plan, right? And he flew into town. Okay, he flew into town. We'd already had the LLC up and running. Okay, when he was in town, we drove, looked at some properties, right? Ate some barbecue, helped him learn more about Kansas City. We went to the bank. We opened up the bank account while he was here, the bank account for that LLC. And he put 30 grand in the bank account while he was here.
Dang.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Jesus.
Bet. It doesn't, I mean, it's looking back on it, like, to me, that was huge. That was massive.
Oh yeah.
Now, it'd be a little different now, but that was it for me. That was the sauce. We hit the ground running. And just so you know, right, I gave some dates basically between, okay, when I did my first deal in '08, right, between '08 and 2018, right, 10-year span, I was doing on average, one deal every couple years. That includes the first investment. That includes the my primary residence, right? And those were buy and hold deals. Those were buy and hold deals between 2008 and 2018, because that was my whole goal. That was my whole objective, buy and hold. Okay, so during that 10-year span, I was doing one buy and hold deal every other year on average. And then from 2018 through, like, I don't even know, like, my business partner and I, those first 3 years, we did a dozen deals together.
Wow, that's a huge
Which is,
jump. Yeah.
Yes, you go from doing one buy and hold,
Yeah.
right, every other year for 10 years on average, right? And then I partnered with somebody. We have a game plan. He's got some capital. We hit the ground running. We do 12 deals in 3 years. Of those 12, we kept 7 of them. All right.
Mm.
7 buy and hold. The other we sold off. So we did some wholesale, we did some wholesale, and one of those we did fix and flip on. The
Like,
rest
what
we
is
kept. All right.
hotel? What's hotel for people that don't know?
So to me, okay, wholesale is when an investor buys a property as is and actually take it down, right? They actually take it down.
Right.
That means they put up money, right? They get the deed and then they immediately resell it. To
Yeah.
me, that's wholesaling. It could be you could immediately resell it off market, like what we did, or you could immediately try to resell it on the open market. Okay. So contrast that with wholesaling, right? Wholesaling, they get it under contract, they assign that contract, usually off market. Not all the time. Some wholesalers do some interesting on market stuff, but you know,
No.
but wholesale, yeah, you actually get it, you take it down, buy it as is, immediately resell it as is. To me, that's wholesale.
No. I wanted to kind of dig into like your systems now. Like, what's the most important like type of system that you have within your business, and you personally probably would have given up at this point after 10 years. They probably would have been like, all right.
Man, it's shifted and evolved throughout the years, and as well as my priorities. Excuse me, especially the last few years. It we might want to backtrack a little bit because
That's
at
fine.
one point I had 13 companies, bro, doing real
Dang,
estate.
13.
Yeah, way too much, way too much. That ended, or I started to kind of cut back in 2023,
Were
right?
you trying to vertically integrate? Like, is that why you had so many companies, or like you were trying to do
Yes,
everything along
yes.
the chain? That's a good way to do it when you have the scale. When you start off, yeah.
If you're gonna do that, you better have some money.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was my issue. That was my issue because I partnered with more people,
Mm,
and I thought I wasn't. I was really. I jumped the gun. I wasn't on the same page with them. I thought they was gonna put up the money like my previous business partner did. Right?
mm,
Didn't work
wow.
that way. So 13 companies. It was the property management. Okay, it was my own real estate brokerage because I'm a licensed real estate broker for Kansas and Missouri. And then the rest were investment companies or holding companies.
Okay.
So with each investment partner that I had, there was at least one LLC.
Okay. It
And
makes
I
sense.
had 4 or 5 investment partners through 2023. Fast forward to today, I'm still in the process, but I'm getting it down to 4 entities. And right now I have one true business partner. And then the other one, she's like a strategic partner. So things have changed a lot the
Yeah.
last 2, 3 years. Whereas, okay, before, right, my focus was okay, helping my client, helping my business partner put their capital to work. And then me helping my client or my partner through that process as an operator.
Right.
Okay. And so the systems and the processes were a little bit different then because, I had a business partner that was putting up money. And then as a real estate broker, there were there were 5 different outfits that I was helping with their investment portfolios as well. And it was too much, bro. It was way too much. It was overwhelming. Like yeah. I mean, I don't know how we made it through that, but so
Yeah.
I bring all that up because now I don't have all that. Like my main business partner, he and I aren't rocking together no more. Unfortunately, we
Right.
parted ways last year, November.
Uh,
I signed over 6 properties to him. It's kind of a
well,
long story, but that was last year in November. So since then, I mentioned that my priorities have changed. My
uh,
priorities have been like my health, okay, taking care of my body, my mind, my spirit, hitting the gym, going on walks every day. That's
yeah.
been besides my relationship with God, right?
Right.
That's been next in line
Nice.
is all around good health, right? And so now like if I'm going to work with an investor, they like I was doing so much, man. Like it was crazy to think about. So lately it's marketing on social media and vetting clients, right?
Nice.
That's what my weeks consist of. I talk to investors every week. And of course, I'm still looking for capital partners, capital investors. That's a big thing.
Okay.
After going through whatever I went through, I made some decisions and I set some different types of boundaries for myself. Okay. And I, started to put myself once again. I mean, in the past, like I didn't really know about self love. I didn't know so much about boundaries. I didn't know, like, hey, I need to pour into myself. I can't just keep pouring into whoever wants help.
Right.
Their
Can't help everybody.
empathy. We're as human beings, we all have empathy. There's but there's different levels of it, right? I'm on the higher side of the spectrum when it comes to empathy. But another lesson that I learned throughout this process is that empathy has limits. Can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
So that's been a huge thing for me the last 2 years is really just focusing on, regaining my health and filling up my own cup. Okay. So I mentioned marketing, outreach every single week, mostly social media. I don't take appointments like I used to, bro. Okay. Vetting clients, right? There's really two, maybe in a third possible thing that I will do with an investor at this point, not 8 like it was before. The
Right.
last 2 years, right? And to today, I'm either going to help an investor do a seller finance deal, or I'm going to help them with an investor mortgage, or if they want me to help them find product, right? That's the third thing.
Mm,
Those are the 3 main things, and
uh,
if they want me to help them find product, but they don't wanna be a partner, I charge an upfront fee for that, okay?
mm,
And then, of course, with the changes in the regulations for the National Association of Realtors, I gotta
yeah.
have a buyer agency agreement. That's massive, which I love. I
Yeah.
love
Me
that.
too. Me too.
I love it. I love it because it helps me weed out and filter through and vet potential clients, right?
Yeah. Like find me something. Like sign this first. They're like, wait, hold on.
Yes. If an investor wants me to help them, I need that buyer agency agreement signed and I need my upfront fee.
Right.
If they want to partner with me, that's a little different.
Mm,
Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, I get up each day. And by the way, like I still work. Like I have a side gig. I'm an Uber driver. I am a limo taxi service provider on my taxes, right?
mm,
So I do that about 15, 20 hours a week
Oh,
as an
nice.
Uber driver, right? So I do that in the evenings. That has been a way for me to reconnect with people and to get grounded. It's helped keep me kind of humble too, because I
Mm,
meet all walks of life. The networking is great too. So,
yes.
so 15, 20 hours a week, I'm driving for Uber. The rest of the time, like you can find me in the gym, bro, or you can find me
Oh,
walking in the park.
nice.
Every day I get up, I meditate, I read the word, I pray, I read part of another book, and I'm going to exercise. So I'm going to move my body from there.
Good.
That's my morning or afternoon routine.
Nice. It
And then from
sounds
there,
very
a-
efficient.
after I hit after I hit the gym or I go for a long walk in the park, I get 10,000 steps a day, no exceptions.
Mm,
I've missed the mark, but for the last few years, it's been 10,000 steps a day in the gym 3, 4 times a week. You're not going to rip me away from that. That's huge. Mental health, emotional, spiritual, physical, all of it. You understand?
yeah.
And then
Yes.
from there, once I'm done sweating, moving my body, whether I'm lifting heavy weights or just taking a long hour and a half walk in the park, getting some sunshine, might put my feet in the grass, then it's the outreach. That's I do the outreach, marketing, social media, phone calls. I might have a afternoon appointment or evening appointment, and then from there, I'm going to drive for Uber, right? So that's my, I guess, system or kind of my routine as
y-
of late, and it's been beautiful, bro. It's been
Yeah.
challenging, don't get me wrong, but it's
Yeah.
been an absolute game changer. People gotta prioritize themselves.
Yeah.
That man, we could go for an hour on that.
No.
Man, bro, people gotta take care of their health. People gotta love themselves. I didn't even, self love, I had to learn. I didn't know what that meant until a few years ago, bro.
Right. Yeah.
That's been an
Tag,
absolute game changer. I'm so used to putting others' needs before myself.
right.
And I got
Tagging on to
I
that,
got burnt
you got burned.
I got burnt a few times.
Oh, yeah.
So God had to sit me down and say, "Look, bro, you got to fill up your own cup. You can't help all 6 of your business partners and 10 different investors. You can't keep doing that, bro." So I
Yeah,
got
that's a
the
lot.
message. I
Yeah.
got the message.
Yeah. Uh,
Mhm.
kind of tagging onto that, it sounds like you have like a very efficient use of your time. Like what skill has given you the highest return on your time and your money?
The marketing is huge. The marketing is
Mm,
huge.
mm,
I've gotten so many leads by just staying somewhat consistent with social
consistency.
media posts. Yeah, consistency is huge. Whether and it and it changes, right? For early on, I was like, okay, if I just do one post a week on LinkedIn, this was a few years back, right?
Mm,
To me, that was cool. I was like, if I just do one post per week on Bigger Pockets, right? And if I do, Instagram and Facebook posts 3 times a week, and I will block them in my calendar on my
mm.
phone. I The calendar on my phone has
Okay.
all that stuff.
There's a
The
pattern here.
marketing is huge. Yes. The marketing is huge. And then the self-care is huge. Those have produced the best returns. Just loving up on myself, setting better boundaries. Heck, bro, like I signed up for a massage club a few years back. I need to schedule another massage. At
Yeah.
least once a month, I'm getting a massage. I'm taking Epsom salt baths twice a week.
Nice.
Okay. Stretching, doing yoga. I don't play about my self care anymore.
You've obviously
That's yielded the sorry. Those
are
have
you
those have yielded the best results. being consistent with pouring into myself and then being consistent with my marketing.
Nice. So you've obviously been
Thank you.
successful at what you're doing. What does it cost you? Because reaching to get to where you've gotten, you've had to sacrifice some things. I don't know if people have been really listening to that part of the things that you had to sacrifice to get to where you are, to where you're not doing those smaller deals. You're not dealing with certain things that you did before. It's because you sacrifice. What's your next level look like at this point? How many properties are you at now? Are you just
Well,
doing?
I'm down to 3 properties. I went from 11 properties down to 3
Right.
last year or over the last 2 years.
Mm.
So that's been super challenging, frustrating as well
Ups
because
and downs.
again, my whole goal was yeah, it was my whole goal was to grow the portfolio. But to make things right with my old business partner, I decided to sign those investments. We ended up with 6 of them, right?
Mhm,
And I signed all of those over to him.
mhm,
And this ties in with your other question about sacrifices. I had to sacrifice some relationships.
mhm.
Uh, I don't go to the club anymore, bro.
Me neither.
I used to go to the club every weekend. I'm
Same.
40 years old, by the way, right? So
Yeah.
I don't need to be going to the club anyway.
Yeah, for what? Yeah, what we
I'm
gonna do in there? Loud music? You can't hear people
I don't
talking to you, so what's the.
it's crazy work. So there's certain individuals that I do not communicate or interact with anymore. That was tough for me because I love people. That was one of the biggest challenges for me. And then of those who are still in my life, some of I don't spend as much time around.
Mm,
You know what I mean? It's part
yes.
of not just setting those boundaries, but honoring those boundaries. Okay.
Mhm,
So, like you got to take care of your health. Like, so it's, staying on point. I work every day, bro. I
yeah,
work every single day doing, even if it's just a little something, right? Even if I
right.
just make 2 or 3 calls and I do a couple social media posts. Okay, cool. Even if I just get out and I do 2 or 3 Uber rides, right? I work every single day, no days off. So that's another sacrifice, again, this stuff has changed throughout the years, right? And that's
Sure.
something that I try to emphasize when I'm sharing my story is like, hey, we're all gifted with certain talents and abilities and access to resources.
Yeah.
What worked for me may not work for you exactly the same or someone else. You get what I'm saying? Like, I grew up in a real estate family. My dad was a property manager and a contractor it makes sense that I got into property management and investments, right? Some people, have access to capital and they know about investments besides real estate, right?
Right.
But they don't necessarily have the experience per se. So again, it changes, right?
Oh, what's the next level look like for you? Like, where are you
Ah,
trying to get to the
man,
next?
that's a great question. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, since a teenager, the one of the main objectives has been to grow the buy and hold portfolio. So
Mhm.
I'm still looking to do that.
And
That's
are you
one of my number one things to do.
and you're still
And
doing the property management and all that? You still
okay, I
doing?
I, I don't I don't I got out of property management.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a tough business.
it was 3 years ago. So when I parted ways with that business partner, okay, in 20 this was just last year, right?
Mhm.
We
20
he and I had the property management company together. So I
Mhm,
stepped away from, third party property management as I was, winding down, going from 13 entities down to 4 entities, right?
mm.
So that was a huge relief. So as it stands, like I'm a broker, right? Like I'll send referrals to different agents and I'll sell real estate. Okay.
Mm,
I mentioned not having 6 business partners anymore, but having 2 of them, one of which is a strategic partner. She's a finance pro or a mortgage broker. I send her leads, right? So
mm,
whenever somebody needs funding, I send them to my business partner. She gets them squared away. I get a fee for that.
mm.
And then besides that, it's, figuring out how to connect with and bring on investors with deeper pockets.
Yeah,
That's where I'm at now is okay, if I'm going to help an investor, right? They got to pay the fee, they got to sign the buyer agent agreement, and they got to have some bread. If they want to partner with me, we got to, figure out how that looks. They got to have some bread, right? But, you know, the rest is referrals basically.
nice.
If they,
So,
they got to really come correct if they want my full on attention.
so when they come to you, are they wanting like 3 or 4 properties or just like one big property, or because you just do single family, right? So they'll want like 10 houses or like stuff like that. Am I
I,
going down the right path or
I, I mean, if an investor comes along and they want multifamily and they're willing to follow my lead and pay my fee, I'll help them get it.
to do that? So for people watching, he does do multifamily, not
Yeah.
just single family. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. If they want to rock with me and they want me to help them find product, I can help them do that. If I can't directly, one of the agents that I work closely with might be able to assist them. And I can kind of tag team it, if that makes sense.
Nice.
That, you know.
Well,
But yeah, big thing now is figuring out um which investors I could truly pour into, if that makes sense.
trust
If
is a
they
big
want,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
if they want one fix and flip, I mean,
Nah, man.
am I going to really be able to help them? You know what I mean?
Right.
A friend of mine, she called. It was yesterday. She reached out and she asked if I knew any wholesalers, and I told her I know way too many of them. And then she called me and we spoke and she said she wanted a fix and flip. I'm like, all right, well, here's 2 wholesalers that I can recommend. But I may not be able to necessarily help you. If you really want my help, there's going to be that upfront fee and then of course the buyer agency agreement.
Mm,
So a big thing that I've noticed this year, I have been getting investors who reach out to me via text message, which is another interesting thing that I'm still, I guess, processing. Like,
that's coming on.
I grew, yeah, I grew up in the era of landlines, bro.
Yeah.
Like to me, yeah, to me, I prefer a phone call. So I'm having to get used to people texting about serious stuff. They want to spend some bread. But
Yeah.
anyway, so this year, especially the last few months, I've noticed more investors reaching out via text message wanting fix and flip.
Mm,
Some of them I referred out to another agent. Some of them I declined respectfully. And then some of them I'm like, hey, if you're serious about this and you want my help, here's the fee and we need that buyer agency agreement. I haven't had any takers yet.
mm. What can they do in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to kind of move toward where you're at?
They're going to want to connect with some other investors. I'd go to a local meetup, a local
Mm,
real estate meetup. So that way they can connect with various service providers, different types of investors. and they might end up finding a deal or a partner from going to a meetup.
Mm.
Okay, that's a big thing. And I was gonna start by saying it depends, right?
Sure. It
Because it
does.
kind of depends.
Yeah.
But in general, anybody can go to a real estate investor meetup,
Right.
whether they got money or not,
Now,
right? They can get a ride. That I would recommend that. And then I would also recommend that they start learning more about the types of real estate that they want to do.
mm, smart.
Not 5 to 10 different things at
Right.
once.
Like one or two.
If they
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And
Because I would go to the meetups and they're always teaching something different at those meetups. So very important to not stop spinning your wheels and find one or two things. It took me years to figure that out. So it sounds really simple, but a lot of people when they get into doing real estate, they end up just doing kind of whatever's hot right now. So house flipping is always kind of going to be a thing a lot of people are going to want to do. So, but
mhm.
fast five. So I'm gonna just give you 5 questions, probably like a minute each question. Um, let me see. All right. So the first one, what's the biggest lesson that your journey's taught you?
Yeah, rocking with the rocking with the right people.
Mm, that is very,
Yeah,
very
based on
important.
yeah, I mean, there's gotta be, a synergy, there's gotta be an alignment, the environment, the people that we're around is huge, and so that's a big thing for me. It's a big
Mm,
lesson is because I was pouring into stuff that it really wasn't going anywhere. We were kinda struggling, or I was pouring into something or someone, and I wasn't getting equal give and take, if that makes sense.
mm,
So that was a big thing for me, and it goes back to those boundaries, right?
yeah. What's the biggest mistake you made?
Yes, staying too long
Mm,
in an environment, in a relationship, with the job, with the company.
mm,
That's a big one because there was signs
yep.
and there's clues that you get, and you know, whether we sweep them under the rug or ignore them, it eventually comes out, right?
Amen. Yeah.
Man, I think one of the biggest opportunities that real estate investors sleep on is buying turnkey or livable investments, single
Mm,
family homes, livable single family home investments where investors go in and they put 20 to 30% down
mm,
and then they get to it from there. To me, that and this is pretty deep, okay? And I've spent hours analyzing it, looking at properties, talking with people. You're familiar with the bird strategy, right?
mhm, yep.
Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat.
Mm,
The thing that I saw after 2023, and I'll try to keep this somewhat short, was that by the time, and this happened after interest rates went up and inflation went up. Okay.
mm,
It was late 2022 through the early part of 2023. I was in the middle of projects and helping a few investors, right? Things changed dramatically.
mm,
By the time we went through the BRRRR strategy, right, we were in the same position, or in some cases, a worse position than we would have been in if we would have just bought the house down the street that was ready to go
oh wow.
and put 20% now. That opportunity right now, livable single family home investments. You can go and get one next week, and then you can do it again the following week if you have the capital. That's kind of the thing. Investors want to, like, you got to, like, man, you're familiar with the Burr method. By the time you buy it, most investors are using hard money loans, paying 10 to 20%. They're
Yeah.
going over budget and past the deadline, right? Then they got a refi, which costs another 2 points at least,
Right.
and
Yep.
plus the closing costs, right? Then you can get to what you wanted at the jump.
Right.
And at that point, after paying 10 to 20% hard money, you went over budget 15 grand. You had to pay an extra point because you went past the 6 month mark with your lender. You had to borrow outside capital because you thought you had enough. By the time you do all that, get the hard money lender paid off, get the refi done, right? What's your
That's a lot.
equity position anyway?
That's a lot. And
That's what I've been.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Go
lot of
ahead.
people
Go
don't
ahead.
think like that too. When you don't have the money,
It's,
you have to pay the cost for the money.
man,
That's what people kind of just
that's time. Yes,
forget.
time every day,
Yeah.
literally every moment with the interest. It's,
So for somebody that like wants to work with you, you're looking for people that are almost accredited investors. You're obviously a great manager, great property manager.
Mhm.
So that's the type of clientele that you look for.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. They don't have to be accredited, but
Right.
if they have a reasonable amount of capital that they can invest, I've been telling people over the last year, if they want to do one deal, they really ought to have a good 50 to $80,000 that they can leverage.
Oh yeah.
And that's whether they go the Burr strategy or if they go traditional.
Mm.
Either way, if they have that 50 to 80K, they could do one single family home investment and possibly a second one after that. But it depends on how the chips fall on that first one.
Right. The people you work with is somebody that has the money that's continuing to generate active income that's coming to you and say, "Hey, I want to put this into real estate. Here's the money, you figure it out." Type. As far as somebody that wants to
Basically,
like
basically.
start off and build. If they got like $5,000 or $10,000, you're basically gonna tell them, "Hey, I don't really work with people with that amount of money. If you have a friend or you get up, 50 to 80,000, which is basically a car. People will drop 50,000 on a car. People will drop 80,000. They'll borrow and do that. So why not borrow and buy a piece of real estate? It's crazy, but people do that. They'll go to the bank and say, "Hey, I want
Yeah.
$50,000 for this car." And the bank will be like, "Here." And then like, "Oh, I need 50,000 for real estate." They'll be like, "Oh." So, oh, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
well,
Very interesting.
who do you think should be my next guest?
There's a buddy of mine named Michael Mitchell. Do you know Michael?
Sounds familiar. Sounds very familiar.
He has been one of my best seller finance clients.
Mm,
And he's one of my favorite or top investors in Kansas City.
wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
He and I met Michael back in 2014. We worked for the same property management company.
Mm,
He was I was doing their leasing and he was doing their maintenance and construction.
mm,
I kept seeing him at properties, right? And then I ran into him, I think it was 3 years ago at a real estate investor meetup. At
mm,
that point, at that point, I had 10 properties and I think he had like 30 or 40 properties.
mm. Dang,
And that, he's got over 100 now.
dang.
And
A lot to borrow from.
I did 9 seller finance deals with him.
Nice.
And I think he's still doing them. He was one of the few people that actually like said what I said is like, you know, if you're gonna do buy and hold, um, and you want more cash flow and you want it to be a little bit more passive, seller financing's the way to go. He owned a bunch of Section 8 rentals
Ooh,
and he did the burst strategy. He after 2 years of doing Section 8 rentals, he started converting all of his rentals to seller financing.
it became the bank pretty much, and yeah.
Uh, he as a contractor sees it,
Wow.
right? And a lot of investors don't wanna talk about this stuff. A lot of
Right.
investors, if you really dug into their portfolio, like investment portfolio or their fix and flip operation, the fix and flip operation is way worse. Don't get me started on that. But if you dug into somebody's investment portfolio of rentals, and then you look at how much debt they owe, right, on the mortgages, not just the first lien position mortgages, but we need to look at the outside capital
Mm,
that they
yeah.
put up or that they leveraged. That investors don't talk about that very much.
Yeah.
They'll talk about the wholesale deal where they made 30K. They'll talk about the fix and flip where they made 100K, right? Whatever. But when it
Yeah.
comes to their rental portfolio, operating it and what the actual performance is like, some of them aren't cash flowing at all.
Man.
Unless you consider negative cash flow. Negative cash flow is cash flow, bro. For
Yeah.
and you feel me? And rentals, I'm not opposed to rentals.
Right.
I actually want to own more rentals in the future,
Mm,
but I'm going in knowing that it's an equity play.
right.
Whatever
Especially for a
cash
single
flow,
home.
oh man, whatever cash flow comes in, you better reinvest it anyway or pay off the outside debt that you used or
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Look, yeah, rental portfolios are weird. They're really weird. And
Yeah.
again, investors, they're not talking about the outside capital that they got.
Right. Oh,
Right, that's the other thing
yeah.
with the vacancies and the maintenance, even if they're managing in-house,
Mm,
like it's a tough thing. And to get 100 doors, like I'm guessing a lot of them were in the urban core or in the inner city
oh yeah.
to
Yeah. A lot of
so that
section 8.
that adds a see, that adds a whole other element to the operations. A big thing that I've been piping up about lately is, okay, not just digging into the numbers on the capital, but also what it's like operating a rental portfolio or what it's like managing a crew of contractors. That
Right.
shit ain't fun, bro. For
I know.
most it's fun to me. It's fun to me. Like I grew up watching it, right? It's cool to me.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's in corporate America, they're married, they got 2 kids, they
You
got
lose your shirt.
they don't want that. They don't
Yeah.
want that. They don't know what they're getting into. A lot of investors realize what it's really like after they're in it. And then they're like, I want to keep going just because I'm the real estate guy. I got to keep up with appearances and keep doing deals, right? I haven't bought a
Right.
property in 3 years, bro. As bad as I
Yeah.
want to. I had to
Quality.
hold myself back.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know the numbers. I'm like, look,
Yeah.
bro, like the ones that I have, they perform. It's not sexy. It's not a whole lot, but
Right.
I know, like, hey, I could do that again, right? So
Yeah. So
yeah,
you had the skills and you also had the active income from real estate to kind of boost you to get to where you were at. So that's very important because I
yeah,
think people also need to learn, like, as far as getting started to get to where they can work with you, they have to have some kind of active income that they're building up. If they're going to use this strategy to try to build their portfolio, they're not going to have a whole lot of rentals. But if they're able to be a real estate agent or something in real estate that can bring them active income, they
Yes.
can get to that point.
Yes.
So people that are watching, don't
That's
get
huge.
discouraged. There's a way in. There's
Uh-huh.
always a way in. There's always a
Oh,
way you can get
yes.
equity. So,
That was one other question on the list that, I didn't really get to answer,
oh, it's all
but
right.
you
Right.
hit it. That's a big
Mhm.
recommendation for that I give to investors is if
Mhm.
they're really serious about investing in real estate and they have 5 grand, right? I would
Save it.
one, yeah, go to a meetup and then I would figure out how they can spend it on themselves doing personal development, like a class, like you know what I'm saying? Like
Yes,
there's, and it not
exactly.
even business related, not
Right.
even business related, a personal development class to learn about human emotions and psychology
Mm.
for
Yes, very
themselves,
important.
investing in themselves. And then, we mentioned the meetups, right?
Mhm.
Fantastic. From there, how can we help an investor out? How can I learn from that investor? Okay, you know, and look, we got to humble ourselves sometimes if we're wanting to get into whatever. Like I was cutting grass, I was
Yeah.
putting out mailers,
Yeah.
help. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
invest. An investor wanted me to take pictures. Some
Yeah.
of it was for free. They wanted me
Yeah.
to go check on a property to see if anybody's there. If early on, if they paid me, cool. If they didn't, like, okay, cool. Like I'm getting this experience. And then,
Right.
okay, cool. I did that investor a favor. They know I'm
Yeah.
reliable. I showed up. I called them back. I did what I said I was going to do. Who are they going to reach out to in the future?
Nice.
Learning part of the operations or bringing deals, right? How can I serve an investor type thing?
Right. Very
That's
important.
huge.
Wow.
Hmm.
Dang. Man, shoot, this was this is a long one. There's gonna be a lot of good gems that come out of this for sure.
Well, thanks
Where
again
can
for
I
the
find?
opportunity, Rodney.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for coming
Yeah,
on. Appreciate it.
it's been my pleasure. I'm active on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And then I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about real estate investing, seller financing, and the various aspects of the business. They can type in Luther Wilson III and they'll see me on all those social media platforms. And, feel free to reach out.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put all your handles and stuff in the bio, in the what is it, this description box or whatever they call it. Yeah, but
Yeah,
we'll have to do
sounds
this
cool to
again
me.
though. Yeah, we'll have to do this again. Maybe I don't know when,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll have to do this again in like a little part two. So
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm sure things will have um, grown or evolved or shifted
yeah,
as they usually do, right?
yeah, definitely.
So I
Especially
can
end of the
update
year
y'all on
coming.
that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
All
Luther,
right.
seller finance,
Thanks.
maniac,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you.
All right, y'all.
All
Thanks,
right.
Rodney. Take care.
Yeah. You too.
All right. Peace.